a playlist original.
All right, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Back to the Blockbuster. My name is Gaius Bowling. This is Jackson's official first anniversary episode of the podcast, and it's already happening in January, so we're already getting it out of the way at the top of the year, of the new year.
Hey, I'm excited for it. Yes, this is a great movie to start with.
Yeah, for sure. So, I for everyone listening, I sent him like this. I think it was like a web page of like all the like movie anniversaries for 2023, and it kind of breaks it down by like 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, like kind of like that. And he was like, one, that's a really good thing to have just in case there's one that you really want to highlight. And then the first one I saw was a little found footage monster movie called Cloverfield. It's turning 15 on January 18th this year. Was originally released January 18th, 2008. Sometimes sometimes these make me feel old because I actually can remember when I saw like the first trailer, which was like an amazing like what the fuck is this movie kind of trailer. It like really surprised like everybody when it first premiered ahead of the first Transformers movie. And then of course, there was all like the viral like internet marketing or the way they kind of like promoted the movie, like not really telling you what it was almost until you had to go see it.
They didn't even include the title, did they? And Joss Whedon put out a little trailer with no title, right?
JJ Abrams, there was
or
no
JJ Abrams, right?
No title, no like you could like maybe assume what it was, but like there really was no like you're like, yeah, I think it might be a monster movie, but I still don't quite know. So there was that. It came out in the time too when like the found footage stuff was kind of like dying a little bit. It wasn't like 100% strong, and it made a good case that there are some good movies to be made like this if you do them right.
It came right off the heels of Paranormal Activity, right? Just a few months after that,
and then like
some great found footage horrors.
Yeah, you have like, and of course, I think later you get like, that genre still stays alive with like, a few years later you get like Chronicle and stuff like that. So there is like, you can make good movies with this concept. They just have to be a bit original. Just to give you guys a little, in case you don't know anything about Cloverfield. Like I said, it's a found footage monster film directed by Matt Reeves, who has gone on to do some great things. Jackson is currently holding up his copy that you stole from Blockbuster, right? Didn't we talk about that last week?
That's right, yes I did. Which is funny that now we're covering this now because I had this copy and then Blockbuster went under and it never made its way back there. So this is still the copy that I watched and what I watched last night.
Yep. So so he has his stolen copy from Blockbuster. My copy is somewhere on my rack. I actually watched it again last night too. But yeah, directed by Matt Reeves. In case you guys don't know who he is, after this, it's crazy because I think it's funny the way that him and JJ Abrams came up because like JJ Abrams, his first big show was a show on the WB called Felicity, which is like a coming of age like college drama, and he actually worked on that show with JJ Abrams, and then of course like JJ Abrams went on to like kind of do like I think the first like kind of like action thing he did was Alias, which was like a TV show with Jennifer Garner, and then of course JJ Abrams like took off and did a bunch of other stuff, reinvented Star Trek, right? Lost, reinvented Star Trek, reinvented Star Wars, and then Matt Reeves after this, it didn't do well, but he directed a reboot of Let Me In, which a lot of people love. It just didn't make a lot of money. But then he went on to do Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in 2014 and War of the Planet of the Apes in 2017. And of course, you all really know him for directing 2022's The Batman and bringing that franchise kind of back to life in a very new way. But like, yeah, it's interesting to see like people's humble beginnings, like where they kind of start and where they end
You
up now.
just I just had that phrase lined up in my head to say. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great that you
yeah.
picked that. Yeah.
But yeah, also produced by J.J. Abrams and written by Drew Goddard. These guys have all like worked together a lot in the past. Like Drew Goddard had also worked on Alias and Lost. He also not with J.J. Abrams, but had worked on like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. They really know this kind of like genre filmmaking and like writing and stuff, and they work really well together. Um, and as far as who the film stars, they were able to get away with having decent names, but like not distracting you by like who they are, because like it's a found footage movie, right? So there has to be some like suspension of disbelief, like these are real people, and like you aren't really want to be like, oh, like I know that's so and so, right? I know who Lizzie Kaplan is, but like she at that time was only really knew her from Mean Girls, and
Oh,
it wasn't a
is
face
she
that I.
Gretchen?
No, she's Janice Ian. She's like the.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't
Yes.
make that connection. That's funny.
So yeah, and see, it worked on you. So then like
Yeah.
Jessica Lucas has gone on to do a lot of stuff too, but at the time she could easily be in this found footage movie, and I'd be like, she's just some girl, just a regular girl.
Yeah.
T.J. Miller, Michael Stahl, David, Mike Vogel, and Odette Yetzman all star in this movie. And the plot follows six young New York City residents fleeing from a massive monster and various other smaller creatures that attack the city during a farewell party. Um, I'm gonna ask you first. Did you
Sure.
first see it when you got like this particular like stolen copy from the video store?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I don't recall. So this, just for some context, this would have come out in January 18th, right, of
Yeah, yeah,
2008. So at
yeah,
that point, I don't recall seeing it in theaters. I only would have been 9 years old though. So I'm thinking I was probably 10 by the time this would have came out on DVD and I would have seen it for the first time. And it's
yeah,
one of those movies that I'll never really know how many times I've actually seen it because I had the copy lying around for so long. And as a kid, I remember seeing it at least multiple times, but I'll never really be able to put a number on it. Many
yeah,
times though, for sure. But in my, after my adolescence and in my the beginning of my cinematic discovery and
adulthood.
love for movies, adulthood. I'll say I've seen it probably two, or last night might have been the third watch I've seen, at least since I was a kid. But I do have some fond memories of watching this movie growing up, being terrified in particular of the subway scene in which they are attacked in the dark, the night vision, great night vision scene where
Yeah,
they enable the night vision on the camera
yeah,
and you see
yeah.
the three or four
Four, yeah.
monsters.
Ugh.
And then the scene with Marlena, we're going into spoilers with this, are we?
Yeah,
Or do
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
want to, yeah?
Guys, if you guys haven't seen this in the last 15 years, that's gonna be on you. So, but yes,
Yeah.
there will be spoilers.
Okay.
Uh,
So the scene where the character of Marlena explodes into a pool of blood, more or less, in the military tent, used to literally sketch the shit out of me when I was a kid. So that was one scene I was looking forward to seeing it again. So yeah, long story short, I've seen it at least, we'll say, 5 times. Great rewatch though.
yeah.
What's your experience with this one?
So my experience, I will go back a little bit to the first trailer that they released for this. Like you said, they released a teaser trailer ahead of screenings of Transformers in 2007 without a title. So at the time when we saw Transformers on opening night, while we should have been talking about Transformers and how like decent it was for us, it was decent. I didn't love it, but it was decent. All we
Yeah.
could talk about was what the fuck was that trailer for, that thing at the beginning of the, like, what was that? And that's all we could talk about, and like we became like so like obsessed with finding out anything about it. And I think that the marketing campaign, they knew that everyone was, because like that was like a big part of the story after that opening weekend, was like everyone's talking about this trailer that like no title, just it looks like it's a random like camera footage from a party, and then there's explosions in the distance, and then there's chaos, and then the Statue of Liberty's like head just goes rolling down like the street, and that was it. And yeah, so from that point in, like, what was that, the summer, uh we went from that point until January being like, what is this movie? And like they released another trailer ahead of Beowulf that eventually gave a title, but even then there wasn't a lot like okay, what is Cloverfield then? We still didn't know like what it was gonna be. Like you didn't assume that it would be a monster movie just based on like the general mass destruction going on, I guess.
Right.
Uh and I think at the time one of my buddies was like, I'm getting like Godzilla vibes from this. And I was like, all right, well, yeah, sure, that could be it. But we got so sucked into like that whole like marketing campaign where we were just like, we have to know what this is, right? So I will say, we could have easily been let down when we finally saw it in January, on January 18th, because I saw it our opening night. And I was happy to say that I was not disappointed in it, and I thought that it lived up to whatever
The
hype I
hype.
created in my own head
Yeah.
about what it was going to be.
I got to give props to the genius internet marketing campaign that this movie would have had at the time. Would have been relatively not utilized. This was 2007. This movie was being promoted. The
Right.
internet at the point was relatively new, especially being used for this sort of thing. So I'd say the creators behind this movie did a really good job utilizing that for the
Yep.
marketing for this movie. It just makes it special.
And they actually like they cut that trailer together without having like a complete like finished film. It was kind of like it was almost like how
Ooh,
you would do like
ballsy.
like a sizzle reel basically, right?
Okay.
And they were still kind of like mapping out even the rest of like the story for it. So it was like, I mean, they had in their head like what it was gonna be, but it was like, let's like build hype already with what we've kind of been shooting, and like build anticipation that way. And
Right.
it always makes me wonder, right? So many like movies can do this. Like they can have this kind of special kind of marketing attached to them. Like Paranormal Activity, when that came out, they did the whole like, oh, like request this movie in your city. They made it like a smaller thing before it became a bigger thing. And like it makes me wonder why everyone else doesn't try like really impressive, like smart marketing campaigns like this, because like that's how you sell a movie without, and like
Word of mouth goes a long way.
I was like, we were saying in another episode that we recorded today that trailers show way too much. This is an
I was thinking
example
about
of like,
this.
this is an
Yeah.
example of like, yeah, you're showing me something, but not too much, and you're not even giving me a title. I don't even know what it is, and like, because it starts
Yeah.
out as like a normal like, it's just like cutting between like the stuff at the party, like really mundane, like early 20s, mid 20s, like relationship talk, friendship talk, and then all of a sudden there's just like chaos, and you don't even know what what's causing the chaos, and a lot of screaming, a lot of running, and of course, Statue of Liberty, and then boom, that's it.
Which is such an iconic shot of the
Yeah,
head rolling down the street, soaking a couple buildings first, and even like they play on it with the cover of the movie, like as I showed earlier, like the Statue of Liberty with no head, like that will
yep,
forever be an iconic scene and cover. I think like just in film and
yep,
just so like ominous and foreboding about what's to come. And the movie does a great job of building its monster. Again, doesn't show you too much. It does by the time the runtime's over, you do get a good glimpse an idea
of what it
of
is.
what
Yeah,
Clover it looks like, but throughout
right.
the movie, you're only seeing it in small glimpses, mostly on a television screen, which I just think it just pays dividends in terms
Yeah,
of leaving you wanting more.
right.
So just props for that.
Yeah, to kind of speak on the marketing too, 'cause I think this kind of helps that like JJ Abrams had a really good experience doing this kind of marketing, because of course he is the brainchild behind Lost, and Lost had very similar like mysteries, like what is this, like what are we, like what kind of show is this, and they wanted to make similar viral tie-ins that were similar to like the Lost experience, which is what they were doing like to promote that series. And that's when they all decided they were going to create a teaser trailer that would be a surprise in the light of the commonplace media saturation. And rather than edit a teaser from footage taken from a finished film, the footage was captured during the preparation stages solely for the creation of the teaser. So like they just like, it was just all prep footage and nothing from like the movie itself, the finished movie itself, which is
Right.
like really a really cool uh thing to do.
There's
And
a lot of
actually
small stuff like that to love.
yeah, and Paramount Pictures encouraged them to attach the teaser without the title, and
Hmm.
usually the Motion Picture Association won't approve of that because they want to like know exactly what kind of movie you're selling. But they also approved it and said that they could release the teaser trailer without a title.
It sounds like the
attached to it.
stars aligned because that's
Actually,
just not something you'd think.
yeah, the only thing that they showed in that teaser trailer that gave you any indication of what was coming, because this teaser trailer came out in July 2007, uh, all they showed was the release date of January 18th, 2008, and that was all.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, very very smart thing to do. Um, watching the movie again, and I actually felt this way too. I actually like that there is like a slow, gradual build up to what happens because it makes it feel like it's a real life situation. So I do know people who eventually saw the movie and like don't like it as much because the first like how long is that set up like with the all the characters and like him having to he's leaving and there's that whole situation with the girl
15,
and
20 minutes at least.
right. So and like I understand. So like the whole thing with like Beth and then the lead guy Michael Saul David, his character Rob, like we learned that they've had a relationship, they've since broken up. She has a new boyfriend. Uh, he's moving away. There's a lot of angst going on at the party.
Yes, there is.
Uh, but I guess what I like about it though, because like when you're in these kind of like found footage movies where you're not supposed to appear like you're acting, I thought they all did a really good job of like feeling like they were real people. Like they were, I never felt like I was watching like actors playing roles. And I think that
You're right.
that whole setup, that whole 15-20 minute setup is important because when stuff does go to shit, you want to care about them on some level, and you want them all to make it out. Um, so people that do complain, I mean, I guess I can see it because it is a lot of like, what did my one buddy say? He was just like, oh, I just feel like I wouldn't want to hang out with any of them after he watched
No.
it. After he watched it. But it's important. I think it's important to kind of like establish like who they are and again make it feel like it's
Yeah.
a real life situation and occurrence. And for the most part, I
Yeah.
think like most of the characters are likable. I yeah, for the most part. Again, for the most part.
I had some
I
mixed
have
feelings. Rewatching, just thinking the character that T.J. Miller plays, Hud.
yeah,
Like,
I was gonna say that. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
he's a mixed bag. Like, yeah, he's fun loving and like a little bit humorous, and there's things I like about his character. But like on the other hand, like his dialogue for the most part, like kind of annoyed me last night. It was all part of his character. Like it was to be expected, I guess.
And he's our eyes. He's our like lens
Yes.
through like the whole movie. So like
Yeah,
you,
you're with him
you
the whole
kind of
time,
you kind of like need to like him, but like he's kind of annoying. Um,
but he plays the character well.
plays
Like, he's
well.
meant to be annoying. He's meant to be a big mouth
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
guy.
for sure. And like actually I the one character I actually like most of them, but I think Lizzie Kaplan's character is really cool. I like Marlena. She's really like snarky and kind of funny. And it's also kind of she's not really into talking to HUD, just TJ Miller's character. But eventually they kind of like in their own little way before, like you
Mm,
said, what happens to her, they kind of like everyone's
mm.
kind of like connected on some level because they've all kind of like stuck together, even though they initially do not want to go and for people that don't know, like once all the chaos happens and there's that first massive explosion, Beth and the boyfriend have already left the party. He has regrets about what he said to her at kind of mean stuff, I guess, at the party. And the main plot point for them is like he wants to go find her. Again, I know a lot of people that are like, there's no way I would like run across what was this New York City to go like
Yeah.
find one person during this like high level of mass destruction. But he loves her, whatever.
Yeah.
um,
I get behind it, honestly. Like I did enjoy it. I could see, I think they painted a good reason for him have like going into the thick of things and into the shit, like for the girl that he loves. There's a point where he says to a military officer who he's trying to get to escort him there. He's like, you got to help me. Like the girl I love more than anything is trapped and needs our help. And I just really bought into why he was trying to go
Why?
get Beth.
Yeah, I agree too. I also, and this always gets me because every time I watched it last night on full surround sound. So he's having that conversation with his brother Jason, played by Mike Vogel, after she has already left, and like they're just having this conversation about like basically like you did this, or you're the kind of the reason why she's like you guys are in this kind of spot in your relationship, whatever. It's such a regular conversation, and then you get that first big boom from like the
Mm.
explosion, it scares me every fucking time. And I've seen the movie like a handful of times. Like I was like in my room alone and jumps like little bitch for like no reason. But it's like always just loud and out of nowhere. And but it's like
Yeah,
it's jarring. That first one is like completely jarring.
and
And
it's
you feel
terrifying. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
like you feel like you're kind of like the way the camera kind of starts shaking, the way like you feel like you're in that, which is why like these movies can kind of work because they make you feel like you are there, like in the action and like in the middle of it. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, that first one gets me every single time. I vividly recall when we saw it in the theater, and I was the only one. Like other people jumped in our row of friends, but I like jumped the most. And everyone like laughed at me. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I was so
No.
focused on like there's relationship conversation about the girl, and I got
Well, don't feel bad.
distracted.
We're hardwired to be afraid of loud noises. It doesn't usually mean a good thing. So I think it is effective. And like you said, just with found footage, you are just so much more drawn into the what's going on in the film. That just by nature of you feeling like you're there, the movie just comes across as being so much more realistic. So I think it's just, some good effective sound design to get
Yeah,
the audience a little spooked out, which it just did its job. No, I wouldn't feel bad.
yeah. Thank you. Even though I'm still jumping at it at 38 years old. um, um, speaking of like the sound design and just how it looks, even though it's a found footage movie, it's a $25 million budget. Um,
Wow.
I think that for all there's a lot of like huge kind of set pieces in this movie, despite the fact that like it's a smaller budgeted. Like it feels like you're making like a small budget like summer release almost without like having to.
Right.
Um, all the initial chaos in the streets with all the military people, with them trying to like run to like initially like some kind of safety, and then realizing that they need to go get Beth. Um, where they're on that bridge and they get separated from his
Mm,
brother. Um,
yeah.
I also didn't notice. So is it the thing's tail that breaks the bridge in half, or
It
like
must be. It looks like a tentacle or something,
oh,
but
it's something? Yeah,
it's probably a tail or an
because
arm.
when I first saw that in theaters, I was like, what the fuck broke the bridge? Because I didn't see
Right.
anything, and then when I was
Right.
watching it last night, I was like, oh, maybe there's still. Um, Also sad too, like because like even though you don't spend a ton of time with like him,
The brother.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but you get like that's why those like 15-20 minutes are important though, because like
Yeah. Good point.
it you now you feel bad for Rob, now you feel bad for the girlfriend Lily, played by Jessica Lucas. And there's like a whole you know plethora of people now that like guy just
Mm.
lost his brother, and like and I guess if you think about the plot further, like he was moving to like possibly change his life for the better, like even though he was leaving the girl that he was in love with, and now like in a matter of like moments, his whole life is like completely changed. Like now his brother's
That's
gone,
right.
the girl that he is like in love with might be gone, which is probably why he needs to do what he needs to do to go find her.
Exactly.
Um, Speaking of like pretty decent emotional moment that's handled really well when they get down in the tunnel, and I think it's his parents that call him, the mom or something calls him.
Yep. His
He
mom.
gets
Yeah.
on the phone, and it's like a really quick moment, but it feels so real where it's like you can tell what he's telling her, and like yeah, like it's just really things that you wouldn't think of doing in movies like this
Mm.
normally that you would gloss over. Um, it's and just focus on like the mayhem of it all. I'm glad there's like
Right.
character beats like that.
There's some good
Uh,
human moments spread without. Absolutely.
yeah, and like I'm glad you brought up the tunnel thing too, because that was another scene that still terrifies me. Um, it's the night vision, and it's such a great way to reveal it, and it's the fucking noise that they
Yes, it
make.
is.
uh,
It starts with the rats all running away
oh,
in the
oh,
same
Ray,
direction, and then
yeah,
you know something running away from something. And I
yeah,
think that is a great subtle build to the other little monsters. And
yeah.
one of the characters was like, they're all running in the same direction. And
Shit,
as the
yeah,
viewer, you're just like, pick up on this. Like they're obviously running from something. And then by the time the creatures are revealed by the night vision, oh, it's just such an astounding scene. One of my favorite sequences in the movie, without a doubt.
yeah. And what a cool little thing to have, because like to think that like the only threat is like the monster that's like outside, and then
Mm.
to know that these like little things are coming off of it, and like when they show it initially attacking, like I think they're watching footage on like TV somewhere, and it just
Yeah,
shows that thing like attacking, like it's yeah, like
you
I don't
kind of
know
forget about them.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And of course you think everyone got out of that like safely, like uh Marlena gets a badass moment to save someone, and then of course one jumps on her and we
HUD.
find out, yeah,
Yeah.
HUD, yeah,
She
and we
saves
find
HUD,
out
which is ironic.
crazy because they were getting along in the beginning of the movie.
No, you
Um
can tell she wants nothing to do with him, and then that ends up not in her favor.
but yeah.
Quick point about the tunnel scene.
Mhm.
I read just in doing some digging last night. So supposedly they filmed what's known, I guess, on set. They refer to the smaller creatures as the parasites, and the parasites were originally filmed. They used puppets as them, and I think Matt Reeves or Drew Goddard or whoever agreed that they just looked too goofy, so they ended up, I think, using CGI for them,
To
which I
create
think
them.
you could kind of it kind of aged the film a bit. Like they didn't look great. There's a couple scenes where they're just moving really fast, and you can kind of say there's some shaky CGI. But I think it would have been cool to see them use as bits.
Yeah, a little bit.
But oh
Yeah, I would
well,
like that.
I liked what we got to.
But I think for what I mean, and like they always tell you to, which is like kind of like goes back to like the marketing of this and how they presented it. Um, the monster is a bit more scary, right? The less you see it. So like I think it's cool that
Yes.
like you said, we really don't get like a really good shot of like Clover, or like what you want to call it, like until
Yep,
later,
that's
way
how I
later in
call
the
it.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, until way later in the movie, and then to give that reveal of like the parasites just through like the night vision, um,
Mm.
that's a good way to kind of reveal them as well, especially because you feel like they're down this tunnel and they're safe. Like you've gotten this like you've gotten this sense of like, okay, like everything that's going to shit is like above them and they're fine. And then to know that like there's this other threat that's there, um and just that fucking noise and like anything that looks like it
Oh
crawls on you
yeah,
like this, like it, yeah,
like big
it's,
spider things.
yeah,
It's
yeah, like
never good.
it's so
They're
gross.
gross.
It's so gross. um yeah, that's interesting though, about like I wonder how that would have looked with the puppets.
I would love to have seen it. I think it would have been probably the better play. I mean, I trust their gut. They obviously didn't think they looked the best that they could have looked, but I just think it would have been interesting. Like I'm a big proponent of what am I thinking of here? Not CGI, practical effects. Like whenever you
Practical
can use
effects.
practical effects, I always think it's the best chance or best choice to go with.
I agree
But
too, actually.
we got what we got. It is what it is. They still look creepy and terrifying, and they get the point across. But yeah, it would have been great to see them as practical, but and it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
What did you want to touch on? Is
just
there
on the
anything?
note of the effects, there I found myself in awe of how they shot some of the destruction sequences on found footage style. In New York, you see like the whole street is just full of debris, destroyed cars, buildings are
Yep.
firing, and I'm like, I was just so amazed at how the production team had kind of produced destroyed New York City on such a low quality, kind of film style. I just thought it was really
Right.
impressive.
Well, it's interesting too. Like, I assume that like we were like shooting a lot of it like actually like in New York City. Like it seems like it like would be,
Mm,
most of it would be. Um, they did a lot of it on the Warner Brothers studio backlot in Burbank, California. They created a lot of like what would be like their like New York on the
yeah,
backlot, which is like
New
really
York would be
cool.
way
I
too
mean,
expensive to film in,
oh, for
probably.
especially for like, because you have to like, you're clearing like, a large area of like streets and like that, and like,
Yeah,
and you only have a $25 million budget. So I think that like,
exactly.
but to
They did a good
recreate
job though.
yeah, recreate, like they said, the scenes of tanks firing at the creature while the main characters hide in the stairwell were filmed on Hennessy Street at the Warner Brothers studio backlot. Some interior shots were taped on a soundstage in Downey, California, and then they actually filmed in Coney Island as well for some of the early footage with like Beth and Rob going on dates and
Right.
stuff like that. Um, and then the outside scenes of Sephora and the electronics store uh, that they run into filmed in downtown LA, which makes sense because downtown LA
Oh, cool.
it is our own little New York, not as massive,
Right.
but like, it has the same look. Um, but yeah, I think it's cool. Like me to I love that like you can watch that and feel like you're not being faked out uh
Yeah, it was impressive to
by
see.
yeah, especially in that style of filmmaking too, like having to shoot like that. um I think is like really really impressive. probably the most of all the found footage movies, even the really popular ones that still kind of hold up. This probably is the best looking one, and probably uh just in terms of like the overall production, probably feels the best. Like I think it kind of like it doesn't feel like it does a good job of feeling like you're watching like found footage, but it doesn't
Mm,
come off cheap either. Um,
right.
which is like impressive on their side of things. That's really cool. I thought that was
Yeah.
amazing to watch.
Uh, on the note of California and the where the production studios were located, one interesting bit of trivia that I've always wondered where, like, what relation the name Cloverfield has to the movie, because
Right,
besides, like, obviously on set they call the monster Clover.
right.
There's no mention of Clover or Cloverfield anywhere in the movie. So I guess what I found out last night was J.J. Abrams' studio, Bad Robot Productions, and I think that's what it's called, is
Yep.
located in California. And I guess Cloverfield is, I don't know, if I can't remember if they said it was the name of a street or a region or an area, kind of like where his studio is located. And that's, I
Mhm.
guess, where they got the name from, which I thought was neat.
Oh, you know what's crazy about that tidbit of trivia?
Mm,
Because like I remember how I told you like back when this movie was coming out, and we were just
yeah.
like all like, and then we find out what the title was. We're just all on the internet like, what does it mean? Like trying to find like trying to find like a deeper like meaning to like.
Right.
No, it's just named after like a place he goes to. I like, yeah, just really
Yeah,
funny.
exactly. Yeah.
Like nothing
Not no
of
real
like,
significance. It just sounds cool.
well, yeah, I thought that is really funny actually. Like, if because if you could have saw us back then, just like trying to find anything that we could find on like
What does
what this
Cloverfield
movie,
mean?
what is this movie telling? Like, yeah, and we were getting nothing at
Yeah.
all. But
I just thought it was cool to finally have an answer.
that was by design though. So that's I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. Um, let me see. There was something I wanted to pull up. Where was it? Oh, it's about the teaser trailer. Okay.
Okay.
So because the movie just came out on, and I think I will be getting this. It just came out on 4K. So he's been doing a lot of
Nice.
interviews for it because it's the 15th anniversary. So he was talking to Collider, and he said they were talking
Who's
about
this? Sorry,
how
is this Matt
oh
Reeves or
about
J.J.
Matt Reeves,
Abrams?
yeah, about
Oh, okay.
Matt
Nice.
Reeves, and he was saying like uh talking about the trailer being attached to Transformers, and like we're not gonna give a title, we're just gonna throw the date, and this was before production even finished. So he was like basically saying that he was scared shitless about like them doing it this way. And
Mm.
he said when the trailer came out, I remember going to see it. It was the 4th of July, and I remember going to the Cinerama Dome and going to watch the trailer and watching the reaction like, wow, this is amazing. It was so exciting. And then my first feeling was that I was thrilled, and then suddenly I was like, wait, this is horrifying because we've shot a week and a half of this movie. I don't know what the movie is, and everybody else is going, "What is this movie?" I mean, we had a script,
Uh,
and we were shooting very early on, but we really didn't know what it was yet.
that just seems so unconventional and probably was terrifying,
Yeah,
not knowing what your movie would become.
yeah, and then like that is a funny reaction, like to him listening to people like, "What is this movie?" And he's like, I don't even know fully what it is yet." Um, and then as far as the casting, a lot of people in the movie had done stuff, but they said the casting was done in secret and no script was sent to candidates to prevent the leaking of plot information. Instead of
Yeah.
auditioning, actually with scenes in the film, scripts from Abrams' previous productions were used. So they used scripts from like Alias and Lost to audition all their actors.
Right.
Um,
Apparently, Lizzie Kaplan thought it was like a romance movie or something until she read further into the script and it was like she'd signed on thinking it was like a romance movie, which is hilarious to me.
they just gave her a script from like Felicity and like, hey, here, like this is what this is. Uh,
Psych.
but yeah, I mean, like I've never so actually I haven't seen Michael Stahl David, the guy who plays Rob, in a lot of stuff in general. Like he's not someone I. Mike Vogel I know because he was in the 2003. I think it's 2003 when that came out. Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
Oh
Uh,
God.
yeah, he was in
Is it the one
that.
with Matthew McConaughey?
No, thank God.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
one. No, so it's the remake of the original one with Jessica Biel.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that one. Or have
He
I?
dies a
I can't remember.
he dies a pretty horrible death in that. Um,
What's the one? Sorry to get off topic here. What's the
mhm.
Texas Chainsaw one where the girl pulls the gun out of her vagina?
That's
Is
the
that the
remake.
'09
There
or
you
the
go.
'03? That's that one.
That's
Okay, I have
that's
seen
the
that one.
remake. It's the
How does he
remake.
go out in that one?
So and by the way, like people like when we go on tangents like this, and we will use it on our new outtakes that we'll be posting
Oh, perfect.
on
Okay,
Instagram.
great.
So like they go to the house because the boyfriend's already gone to the house, right? And he gets
Yeah.
whacked with the hammer. He gets whacked with the hammer. So Jessica Biel's like, well, where's Kemper? And they all go back to him. Mike Vogel's character and her go back to the house because they're like basically like, hey, my boyfriend was here. He hasn't come back. And then they're in the scene together where the old man is mad because they snuck back in the house to look for him. And then Leatherface like opens the sliding door and started chasing them. She gets away, but then he's running through like all
Right.
the sheets hanging up in front of
Yeah.
the house. And then Leatherface like cuts like his like right above like his ankle, like cuts his foot off, and then
Oh.
hangs him on a meat hook later. And he is
Yeah, I remember this now.
hanging on that meat hook when Jessica Biel finds him, and she tries to like lift him off the meat hook, and then she loses her grip and makes him fall on the meat hook further.
Oh,
And then he basically tells her to like kill him because he's
yeah,
being tortured. Yeah,
suffering.
and
Yeah.
so she stabs him in the stomach. It's a sorry for the R-rated tangent about the
Well,
sex. But you know what, guys? It's related because he is in Cloverfield. So like,
exactly.
um, he
Full circle
survived
here.
his Texas Chainsaw Massacre experience and well, and then died in this movie too. So there you go. He didn't make it out alive.
Terrible. Um,
That's hilarious.
About the cast, there were a couple of faces I recognized that I do not remember. I just wouldn't have recognized in my youth seeing this for the first time. But I was
Yeah.
surprised to see Theo Rossi, who plays Juice in Sons of Anarchy, has a small
He-
role in this
Yep.
movie. He's credited as Antonio, I think. He's got a couple
Yep.
few minutes in the party sequence, and then I don't know
Yep.
the actor's name, but the guy who plays Jonah in the new Superstore comedy show plays Beth's new boyfriend. I recognize him.
His Ben Feltman.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Ben Feldman, yeah.
I knew this guy from somewhere.
By the way, this cast is full of like Ben Feldman it was also in the Friday the 13th remake, which was produced by the same
Right.
people that did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. There's a lot of like
Oh, interesting.
people from that period being in the movies. Jessica Lucas has the girl that plays Lily, she's done a lot of TV and some movies. She's a Canadian actress, so there's that.
Oh, here we go.
And she was also in a horror movie remake. She was in the 2013's Evil Dead, and she was
Right.
in.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Speaking of terrible fates, I
Yeah,
remember what
oh
happened
yeah,
to her in that
she
one.
got yeah,
Jesus, brutal.
yeah. On the film side of things, she was also in She's the Man and That Awkward Moment, and she's done mostly TV though, like long-term roles on different shows like The Resident, the reboot of Meryl's Place. She did the reboot of 90210. Yeah, so they've all kind of been in a lot of. The only one I don't really know, and I'm just gonna click on him now because I mentioned him, Michael Stahl David, who played Rob. You know, he
Not
was
much, eh?
he was on an NBC show called The Black Donnellys, and
Huh.
yeah, I guess Cloverfield is his biggest movie, from what I can
Mm.
see. And
It was
yeah, he's
also-
on like Law and Order episodes and like stuff like that. But yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was TJ Miller's debut as well. I read last night, which was, I mean, pretty interesting movie to start off with, and he did a good job, I think. He was a
Yeah, he
comedian, I
was.
think, at the point.
yeah, it was. It kind of sucks how he goes too, I guess. And that's when we get our first
Yeah.
really good glimpse of
Yeah.
the monster, like during the day,
Yeah,
like right up in
right
its
up
face,
close, one on one.
and looking down on him. I don't know why he doesn't make moves to run. So that's like a lot of people I know hate found footage movies for this reason, because there's no possible way you would hold on to the camera that long, right? So
That's a
like,
good point.
and they throw in lines in this movie to make you like, oh, we have to document this, like people need to know, like that. Like I get what they're
Right.
trying to do, but like none of us would be holding on to the camera like any
No,
longer
of course not.
at this point. And the fact that like in that scene that I mean, I guess he would be in shock when he's like looking up and
Hmm.
filming him straight on, like no one would be doing that. But you know, we needed it for the moment anyway, so
Yeah.
it's fine. Like
It
whatever.
works. You don't gotta look too deep into it.
No,
But I
exactly.
get why people would be annoyed by that stuff, but whatever. Irrelevant.
I remember when I first saw it in theaters, when they finally get to Beth's apartment and it's like clearly like leaned over. Like it's like I just remember
Yes.
my friend was next to me. He's like, "Man, this bitch is dead." Like, see, what's the point? He's like, "Why they go?" I was like, "I know, shut up." And it's kind of a funny like thing to look at now, where you're like, they went through all this, and they all have the same reaction. Like when they get there, like, "Oh, there's no way," and he still insists,
Right.
like, "No, we gotta go, we gotta go." Um,
100%.
and you know what? It ended up working out because she was alive, but like pretty fucking injured.
Impaled by a rebar pipe,
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
which would have
Uh,
sucked. And
and that
I'm glad they don't show them lifting her off, and they put the camera strategically behind a lump of concrete or something. You can just
right.
hear them lift her up.
All you need to hear is that
Oh,
sound and her reaction to
yeah,
it, and
yeah,
that's
and
all.
that's effective enough.
And that's all you need to make that work. And then those little fucking parasites are in the building too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
briefly. I'm
yeah,
glad you mentioned that crippled building set, because you just reminded me of a point I wanted to touch on. That there's a sequence where they're kind of crawling up the dilapidated. So there's a straight up building, and then Beth's apartment, which is like kind of leaning on it, and they gotta crawl over the top of the slanted building, the roof, to get into it. And I just thought that was
right.
kind of cool. That set would have been interesting to film on, and thought it looked good.
No, it does. It does really look good,
It's inverted.
and yeah, and you really feel like their like unsteadiness throughout that whole scene too. Um,
Yeah.
it's just another good example of like there's so many different like moments in the movie that have nothing to do with the monster or the parasites that are like just scary in their own right. Because it's like how you gonna get out of this kind of situation? Like you have like even like the chaos of like the military just being around on the streets while like all those military people are like shooting at it, trying to kill it. Like you're in the middle of that crossfire, or they're in the middle of that crossfire too. Like so, there's potential danger and like all of that as well. So it's like I like when movies like this, like it's not just about like what the creature's doing. It's like there's all these other things that could potentially like take them out, and like
Yeah.
very like realistically done. I think in a yeah,
I agree with
still
you.
gets me.
Very hostile environment.
Yeah, and you can feel the chaos, dude. Like I watched it like watching it on surround sound. Like the bullets are like flying everywhere while you're watching it, and it's like
Tanks,
yeah, and like for a
explosions
movie
everywhere.
like
Yeah.
I said, a movie with a $25 million budget, the sound design sounds like it's a big budget like
Yeah.
like blockbuster movie. The way that it is the way they
Well,
handle all that.
in hindsight, I'm sure that's where most of the budget went, because it's not like, I doubt they really had to pay their actors a whole lot. They were probably relatively unknowns at that point,
Yeah,
so probably didn't demand much of a salary. So leave
you
some
know
budget left over for the sound and effects.
that's true too. I think for those actors, you take those roles for the experience because I'm pretty sure they probably didn't get paid a ton of money.
I
Um,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and honestly, I think they're hard roles to play because it's not like you're supposed to be playing real people, not like like
Right.
right and then like the physical like demand of it too. That had to be like pretty intense as well, and like yeah, but yeah, I imagine that yeah, all the money went to like the all the like technical stuff, and they
Exactly.
they just got to be in a really cool movie, and
Hey,
that
put
get
put a few on the
yeah
map, so
yeah
good for them.
I agree. Um, anything else about the making of it that you wanted to touch on? Anything while you were watching it?
I think we. Oh, actually, yeah. There was one other. I'm gonna pull this out. There's two names I came across when I was just IMDbing this last night, and was really surprised to see two people attached to this movie that I didn't expect to see. So apparently, do you remember near the end of the movie when the military is about to use? They don't necessarily say when they're going to use what's likely a nuke to take out this monster, because they
Right,
eventually they through conventional means they can't take it out. So then I can't remember
right,
they use an acronym. Anyway, so there's these big air sirens that are going off to
yeah.
signal the commencement of this bombing
This,
run. And I
yeah,
guess the idea of those air sirens apparently was Steven Spielberg's idea, no less. The man
of course,
himself, he came up
of
with that idea
course.
to have that air siren. I thought that was super cool. Um, and then the another name I saw, I was surprised to see. So the visual main effects supervisor, there's two of them, one of which Phil Tippett, who last year did his Mad God, his 30
Oh
year in
yeah,
the making animation.
yeah.
So he was involved
That's
in that movie
awesome.
too. It was pretty cool
That's
to see that.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought up the stuff with the new because like when I was watching it last night when they did when they it's decided at this point like they have to do this in order to take out the monster.
Mm,
And and I think it's that initial disappointment of like when they think they've killed it, right? Like when they think they've kind of like
mm,
destroyed it, and then you get that one last, it like jumps and like hits the helicopter and like, and then it completely spins out or whatever.
yep.
That scene is like jarring and really cool. But what I still was surprised that still got to me like 15 years later is I'm get that is what that kind of situation would be like if you're like if you were in a situation where like, hey, this thing we can't destroy it. This is the only thing that might be able to. Yeah, there are still like civilians out there that might,
Mm,
they're gonna die, but like
mm.
this is like, this is that's a lesser of two evils at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so when you hear that like that siren and stuff, like I was like when I was watching last night, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this is like where this goes. And then
Right.
they kind of huddle under that tunnel together, and like of course have the camera on himself where he's like, basically saying like this is what happened, like this is who he is, like
Mm,
when the attack started. Um, that first explosion that kind of knocks the camera down, but they're still like alive, and you can hear like
yep.
him say like I love you, or she says I love you, or whatever
They
order it
both
is.
actually, but they both
Yeah,
get it in.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then that last one that completely, then it's over. Like it's like a gut punch a little bit, like no happy endings whatsoever.
Nope.
And then it ends on like I guess a happy moment, like having that
Mm.
footage of them together from their previous like dates, like going out,
My
and
favorite moment in the movie is
it's a
right
really
after that moment.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And like they say like she basically says like I had a really good day, and it's like a really like nice moment between them.
Yeah.
But then taking you back to when I
Mm.
first saw this in 2008, because I didn't notice this when I saw it in the theater. It wasn't until like I got home and other people were talking about it.
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, so you realize like when they were on their date, like at Coney, I guess wherever they're at,
Yep.
that is when the thing first like drops in the water." And I was like, "Wait," I was
Yeah.
like,
The
I was like, I
meteor
was
or
like,
whatever it was.
and I was like, "What dropped in the water?" They're like, "Dude, something like fell in the water." Like they show it. I was like,
Yeah.
"Really?" So I didn't see it when I initially saw it in theaters. It wasn't until later, and I was like, "Oh." So it's like, is that when
Cool
the thing? Is
detail,
that when
man.
the thing kind of came and it was already there? And I don't know for how long, but like, yeah, that's a really cool little touch.
I thought it was like just the fact that it's not like focused on at all or hyped up, but it's just if you happen to be looking in the right corner of the screen as you see this like meteor or object fall into the ocean, you may catch it, you may not, and that is the catalyst for the rest of the movie, which is in the last shot of the film, which was of a sequence before the events of the film. I just thought that was like a super cool detail. And I love picking up on that. I don't remember when I would have caught that detail. I doubt I noticed it when I was a kid, but I did remember to look for it yet last night. And
Yeah,
it was really cool.
I felt kind of stupid that I didn't see it when I first saw it. I was like, because like when you're
Oh,
watching it,
it's
like,
not big.
it's not big at all. But I guess like when you're looking for it, you do see it. You're like, oh yeah, there it is.
Right.
But what a fun little thing to do. Like you like as a viewer, you think the movie is like it is over, but it's giving you this like one little hint that like earlier
Mm-hmm.
this all like kind of started then, and
Yeah.
however long it took for this thing to like wake up or do whatever. Uh,
It's a nice cherry on top of the movie. I really love that detail.
Yeah, and I also love too. I mean, there are gonna be people that want to watch a movie like this and want like answers and like
Mm.
where did it come from? What is it? I don't need that. I'm perfectly fine with like
No,
this being like because that's what
exactly.
because honestly, for some of us, that is what it would be in real life. Like we wouldn't know what was completely was going on. Like if this happened, for real, like we be in the dark about a
Yeah,
lot of it. So like
that's a
there's
great point.
so that's why I never mind. Uh, when there's like when things are more ambiguous. You don't have to tell us everything. I don't need to know like all the
Mm.
details of it. Um, so like we said, Cloverfield opened on January 18th, 2008, in 3,411 theaters, and it grossed 16.9 million on its opening day and made 40.1 million on its opening weekend. At the time, it was the most successful January release up until Ride Along in 2014, uh, which had a weekend gross of 41.5 million. Uh, and then it also beat Titanic and Black Hawk Down to have the biggest Martin Luther King Jr. Day weekend and opening weekend gross at the time of his release.
Wow.
Worldwide, it grossed $170.6 million at the global box office. Now, this is how you kind of can tell everyone didn't love it. It got a C cinema score when it came out from opening night. people.
Okay.
So I guess like for
Well,
everyone, like like for me, I thought it lived up to the hype. For other people, they might have been like, you know, and
hmm,
I guess that's the pros and cons of having like a marketing campaign like that, where you build up so much like anticipation for it that
right.
you're bound to disappoint somebody. Um, but yeah, even though it made 170 million dollars worldwide, it only made 80 million dollars here in like North America and Canada. So like
Still
that's
tripled its budget. That's
still
impressive
triple.
enough.
Yeah, still triple his budget. So like yeah, I wouldn't dare take that away from
Made
it.
more than Babylon and Fablemans combined. So
That's true.
that's
That's true.
pretty impressive.
I guess you could just tell how like front loaded it was here. Like
Yeah.
having a $40 million opening weekend and then only making 80 by the time you end your run is like it's a
Okay.
pretty like
That's a
a pretty
sick
big drop
drop.
off. But
Yeah, I didn't consider it like that, but that's a great point.
but still, like 25 million dollar budget, it made money and made a profit for Paramount. 78% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And the consensus
I think
says
that's deserving.
yeah, it's good. I think that's fine. It says a sort of Blair Witch Project crossed with Godzilla. Cloverfield is economically paced, stylistically clever, and filled with scares. Uh, Roger Ebert, wow, was still alive when this movie came out. I always forget like when he passed away, but he was one of the major critics to give it 3 stars out of 4, and said that it was a pretty scary movie at times. But and a lot of people actually did bring this up that it evokes a lot of like 9/11 kind of feelings in a lot of people, because like that's what happens when you watch a movie about New
That's a good
York being
point.
like
Yeah.
devastated in a certain way, which is why a lot of people always are like, why in disaster movies is it always New York that gets like pummeled by some
Right.
kind of like
If it's not New
catastrophic
York,
event?
it's LA. Yeah.
Yeah, like what did we do? um, but yeah, well received in the end, and then like this isn't about like those other two movies, but like we never really got like a direct sequel to it. Um, but I
Which
don't know I mean, how do you
I'm
explain
not
it?
upset about.
Is it like are we how are we describing what 10 Cloverfield Lane is and the Cloverfield paradox? Is this just like in the same universe? Is that what they're
Well,
trying to
that's
say?
not even that's not it is, but it's not even really conclusive how they really tie in. I haven't seen Cloverfield Paradox yet, but I have seen 10 Cloverfield Lane many times and
Yeah.
enjoy that one as well. They just feel like they're, cut from the same cloth, loosely in the same universe. I'm still not even sure how the movies connect.
Yeah.
But I think that approach is better, like the one they took in 10 Cloverfield Lane, than it would be to have a direct sequel to the first one. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have cared for that, I don't think.
Yeah, it says that 10 Cloverfield Lane was developed from a script called The Cellar, but under production at Bad Robot, it was turned into a spiritual successor to 2008's Cloverfield.
Hmm.
Um, so it seems like they're just trying to say that it's like within like the same like space, but not like an official sequel. I actually think 10
Right.
Cloverfield Lane is very good, and I kind of like that you
Me
don't
as
really
well.
get. I'm kind of glad that you don't really get a tangible connection, if there is one really, until like the very end of the movie, where it's just kind of like, oh well, yeah, there was all this madness going on in this room where they were locked up in, and it's like, is it like, oh, is he telling the truth? Is there really something going on up there, or is he just crazy?
Hmm.
Uh, turns out he wasn't crazy. um, well, he was crazy,
Joe,
but like,
he was
like
crazy, but he was also right.
yeah,
Did you
yeah,
know? I'm sure you do. Damien Chazelle co-wrote that screenplay. Isn't that crazy?
yeah, he is crazy. Yeah, that is
I
crazy.
couldn't believe it. I noticed that a few years after I got the DVD. I was like, wait a minute. He did that in between Whiplash and La La Land. Wrote that script or co-wrote it. Thought
Oh,
that was awesome.
and I just logged into my work at CBR. I want to go back to what you said about the Easter egg at the end of the movie. It
Yep.
says that Cloverfield's most famous Easter egg was a last minute addition. Matt Reeves says the Easter egg, which hints the creature's origins being an object falling from the sky, that it was added pretty late. We were finishing the visual effects and thought it would be pretty cool to see the moment where it does come down. And the special effects seemed, yeah, we can do that. We knew that we wanted to have an Easter egg and the kind of thing that kind of help points out to audiences like uh, when the event might have occurred, but we didn't want to draw too much attention to it. Um, he feels that people picked up on it quickly. I didn't. um,
Not
but
everyone
yeah,
did.
yeah, he said that it was a very last minute addition, but he's glad that he threw it in there. And then on that note, why there was no official sequel, he wanted to do one, but he told Collider, our schedules just didn't quite line up in that way. We absolutely right afterwards were talking about it. I had a bunch of ideas. I know Drew Goddard had ideas. I'm sure J.J. Abrams had ideas, and we were talking about stuff. But then we got swept into some other things, and we thought, well, maybe we'll come back to it. And obviously, we ended up finding another way to do other iterations. So I think even he is saying that like 10 Cloverfield Lane, Cloverfield Paradox, they're not direct sequels. They're just kind of like
Okay.
in the same
Loosely,
vein, loosely
yeah, same
attached.
vein. Yeah.
very,
Cut from the
very,
same
very
cloth.
loosely
It
attached.
works for me.
Yeah, I'm
Maybe
cool
we'll
with
see
that.
more in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, even watching it last night, 15 years later, I think it still holds up, uh, really well. And yeah. I mean, I was just in. I'm still shocked that it's this old.
I know,
um,
man. Trust
uh,
me. 15 years when I was 9 when it came out to now, like it just seems like so much time has passed. But I was curious what you rated this movie out of 10.
uh, like a 7.5. I
If you
think
if
it's a
you,
decent.
if you rate your movies, I don't know if you do. I
Yeah, yeah.
do.
I think I
Yeah,
give it a 7.5. I think it like yeah, yeah. I'm reluctant to
that's
rate
good.
higher. I think when I first saw it, I would have rated higher. I do
Right.
love
I
that.
agree. Me too.
I do love that it's like short and to the point. Like it's not a long movie. I love that it's
Hour
like a
20.
very
Yeah.
yeah. It's very like that, and that is a very good move. I think that helps a lot. Um,
Big time.
yeah, but yeah, I think that for the most part, 7.5 out of 10 works. What would you give it?
So last night, because I had rated it just with anticipation of mentioning this today, I gave it like a don't be detract. This number isn't meant to detract. I gave it a solid, like a good 6 out of 10.
Okay.
But having talked about it today, and just like talking and loving it up a little bit, like I think I'd bump that up to a 7 out of 10. Like just I did have a good time with it, and there's lots to love about it.
Yeah.
Even if there's lots of love off the screen that you don't necessarily see, like just the production behind it and its legacy, I think, add to my rating of it. So yeah, I'm okay with like a 6.5, 7 out of 10 on that one. It was a good watch.
All
Holds up
right. So here,
nice.
I'm gonna throw you another question, just to see what
Sure.
you think. Do you think it is a better example of effective marketing rather than a good movie on its own?
You know what? I think those two things go hand. If it didn't have the marketing that it did, and if
Right.
this was marketed in a more traditional, modern sort of way, I don't think I would enjoy the movie as much. I think it would have. I may have been in the camp that didn't finally live up to the hype, but because I think the marketing did contribute overall to how the film was received, even though I wasn't really paying attention to the marketing at that time. I'm aware
Right.
of it now in my
Right.
adulthood, and think it's really clever and can appreciate it looking back. So yeah, I
Yeah.
would say that it
I,
is a great example of marketing. Yeah.
yeah. I think they both coincide with each other. I think that it reminds me, like we talked about, Paranormal Activity did it. The Blair Witch Project was arguably the first one to really do this in a really realistic way, where like a lot of us who were young were like, is this true? Are we really watching like footage of these like
Right.
kids, like yeah, like so like it's
The
really smart.
grandfather of fan footage. Yeah.
Now like yeah, and so in that case I don't think that lived up to the expectations I had for it. I thought Cloverfield did a little bit more. Same thing with
Okay.
Paranormal Activity. I think Paranormal Activity lives up to its marketing a bit more too. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I wish more movies took this approach. I mean, maybe every movie can't, but like
Yeah.
I think the less is more thing is really good. Like, don't tell me everything, and like in the marketing, like intrigue me enough to like make me
Yeah.
interested in seeing it. Um, but yeah, I also want to point out too that 10 Cloverfield Lane did the same thing where it dropped its first TV spot in the middle of the Super Bowl last that year. No one had
That's
heard of it. No one had really known that it was in production, and all we got was like that trailer, and then 10 Cloverfield Lane. Everyone was like, "Oh!" and everyone just assumed that it was a sequel to Cloverfield. So it was the
right.
same like kind of idea of like let's surprise everyone uh,
Hmm.
by doing it that way.
A lot of could learn a lesson, I think, from how to market your movie from Cloverfield. At the end of the day, that's the biggest lesson I think to be learned from this movie is that it is
Yep,
a great, effective marketing example, and other movies would do good to follow in its shoes.
I agree. Before we wrap up here, I got a few people that I asked like when did they first see it.
Okay.
what their experience was with it. All from Instagram. Jay Built for More. He's actually a bouncer at a local bar that we go to in Hermosa Beach, California. He responded to it. He said he saw it on opening night. The hype was unmatched. The disappointment after, though, ha ha ha. He's one of the people that was like disappointed with it after. Let's see. Uh, Tails underscore from underscore the underscore Chris said saw it in 2008 in theaters and that his mom got very nauseous by the end of it. I was like, that would happen at the end there. I was like, that would happen at the end there, right? I know. All right.
Yeah.
Where did I leave off? Actually, I'll just read that last one again. So Tails underscore from the underscore Chris said he saw it in 2008 in theaters with his mom. His mom got very nauseous from the shaky cameras.
Okay. Heard about that happening.
Tyler Bernard reviews movies. Saw it July 2016, so way after it came out. I am Nick James. Saw it in 2010. The Jinja.ninja.jk saw it in the theaters as well and loved it. Film Fan 7 saw it in 2012. Sorry, I was late to the party. And then Meg the
as long as you're there.
As long as you're there. Meg the Geek saw it opening weekend. It's my favorite movie of all time.
Wow. Right
I'd say that's a bold statement. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Well, yeah, I think we covered most of what we needed to cover on Cloverfield.
Certainly.
15 years later.
Guys, if you haven't had the chance to see it, comes recommended. Would you recommend Cloverfield, Gaius?
I would totally recommend Cloverfield. Is it anywhere? Is it stream anywhere?
It must. I have no idea though. I can't answer.
Oh, you know what? I wonder. I'm gonna look this up for you guys just in case you're like, I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to buy it on 4K, even though you should, because physical media is amazing.
Yes, it is.
But apparently, that makes sense. Paramount Plus, because it is a Paramount movie. You can watch it. You can watch it on Paramount Plus, or you can pay for it on Amazon Prime. In case you need to check it out before your own anniversary rewatch of it. Yeah, so there will be more anniversary episodes coming up. I know I'll pick some. Jackson will pick some. By the way, just so you guys know, everyone's like, do we only cover anniversaries for movies that we love? You know, sometimes it's fun to cover ones for movies that are like aren't that good too, because like they make an impact in their own right.
That's a great point.
We didn't do this last year. I wanted to do it. We didn't have time. Like, I don't like Attack of the Clones. I would have done an anniversary episode on that movie last year, but we did not do it. But like, there is room for bad movie anniversary episodes as well. So yeah, I'm sure we'll look down that list and we'll find some stuff. If there's anything in particular that stands out, that'll be our next pick. But Cloverfield was our first, and I hope you guys enjoyed listening to the episode. And as always, you can listen to us across all of our various podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Good Pods, wherever you want to listen to our fine voices. Jackson has a mic. His voice is fine. My voice is back. Yeah, no, right. My voice is mostly back after a mild case of laryngitis ahead of the new year.
Oh shit! I didn't know you had that.
Yeah, it just
sounded better than everybody.
Yeah, it almost was gone. I was like, I don't even know if we could record the Monday that we did. And then it came back. So yeah. You'll be hearing more from us soon. A lot this week. A few special episodes. This one, and our regular episode, and then you'll hear our Oscar nominations one next week as well. So you got a lot to hear from us, guys, and I hope you enjoy it. So until next time, peace.